Hey guys, so today's video is a little update on things. So I know that Alex James is probably going to be posting more of these parts, and Gabbie Hanna is appearing on the Mum's Basement podcast, and I still haven't updated you guys on all the other things that have been happening with Gabbie Hanna. So I just felt like there's so much happening with like Ethan and Trisha and Mum's Basement again that I just didn't have time to like go over this, and this happened like a week ago, so I'm a little bit late to the story, but I want to update you guys before the next one because then I'll be telling you guys a different part of the story without giving you the backstory. It's very difficult. Anyway, my social media will be in the description along with my beauty channel where I do movie commentaries while doing my makeup. It's very fun and fresh. Go subscribe, hit that bell, like, comment for engagement. Also, today's video is very kindly sponsored by Adam and Eve, who have been wonderful on my channel. And if you guys use code Angelika, you can get 50% off one item with free shipping to the US and Canada. Some exclusions apply. They've been in business for 50 years. They have 24/7 customer service, hassle-free returns. 20% of all profits also go to fighting HIV around the world. Everything comes in discreet packaging. So like I said, you guys can use code Angelika for 50% off one item with free shipping to the US and Canada. Some exclusions apply. So let's just get into it. We have some updates, aka Gabbie Hanna filming a few videos on Jessie Smiles and a few videos on just some people. I think Phoebe's barking downstairs. This isn't very helpful. So she did Smiles for the camera, where the likes, dislikes, and comments were turned off, and there's also the video called Alex James and Jessie Smiles Lies, which is allegedly made by one of her fans, and she apparently just posted it on her YouTube channel, but the editing is identical to her editing, so I think this was made by her and not her fan. She just used it as an excuse, and she was trying to point out like all the lies that Alex James and Jessie Smiles tell. You guys can watch that one. It's just kind of like her playing clips and then them kind of saying something else, but a lot of it is just kind of like them elaborating on a point they made like a year ago, so it's not really lying, it's more just like omitting information. And then we have the video called Jessie Smiles Needs to Be Stopped, which is like the last one that Gabbie filmed on everything. Let me just fact check that, double check it, because I feel like whenever I say that she posts another video and then it just infuriates me. So the Gabbie show, so the last video she posted was 3 weeks ago. It's Jessie Smiles Actually Needs to Be Stopped, which has like this weird Bitmoji editing, and it's supposed to be a parody of the thumbnail that Jessie Smiles did in her Gabbie Hanna Needs to Be Stopped video. And in that video she essentially tries to go over the fact that apparently Jessie Smiles is this like abuser and narcissist and manipulator, and tries to give a lot of like evidence of her essentially just like not being a great person, or how Jessie Smiles is trying to use the Curtis Lepore situation to get back at Gabbie, which is just like a really awful thing to say. Shows some emails and messages between her and Jessie, which Jessie already showed a lot of that, so it doesn't really add much context. Talks about, you know, how Jessie tried to beat her up, which is just like basically Jessie said like, you tried to film a video exposing me with a guy that I used to see, and you're lucky that I'm in an Uber right now because I would have beat you up. Which like, yes, that's a threat, but it's also just like it's also just petty drama between two friends. She talks about how Jessie Smiles communicates with fans, aka she took a fan to prom, and I think there was some like inappropriate things that Jessie was saying about the fan, like that he like didn't want to dance, and that she was like trying to like grind on him and he like didn't want to dance. Really strange stuff. I don't really know how that ended. I hope it ended with Jessie Smiles not doing anything with the fan. Saying how we all call her a master manipulator, but that no one believes her. You can be a manipulator or attempt to be a manipulator without actually successfully manipulating someone. It's just like the act of trying to manipulate someone that is, you know. She then reacts to parts of Jessie Smiles' original video, says that all that Jessie Smiles posts about is Gabbie Hanna, which like that's objectively not true. There are videos that are not about Gabbie Hanna. How she didn't have to make a video on Gabbie Hanna even though she claims that she did, and that Jessie Smiles' whole channel is about drama, which would make Gabbie Hanna's whole channel about drama as well, which would then make her saying that she hates drama channels very ironic. Because she says that because Jessie Smiles does storytime videos, they're all about drama, but like Gabbie Hanna's whole channel was about storytime, so isn't that also drama? I don't know. It says that Jessie Smiles does this to other people but doesn't elaborate on it. Mocks the fact that Jessie Smiles is wearing a hair clip while talking about all of this, as if it's like a very weird thing to do, wear a hair clip, I don't know. That Jessie Smiles made her assault about Gabbie Hanna, and not that Gabbie Hanna made Jessie Smiles' assault about her. So she's essentially saying that Jessie Smiles is using this traumatic experience in her life as a way to get back at Gabbie Hanna. That Jessie Smiles is manipulating her audience. That Jessie Smiles and Gabbie Hanna did videos back and forth, but that Gabbie Hanna says she tried to keep Jessie Smiles' identity private. But like from what I can tell, Jessie Smiles also tried to keep your identity private. So that point can be used for both of you guys, which is nice. Mentions the fact that Jessie Smiles wanted to get a job from Gabbie Hanna, which she has mentioned already in the past. I mean, I'm not here to judge people's financial situations. Jessie Smiles is now a mother who is also responsible for a child, and I feel like when you're responsible for a child, you put all of your past grievances aside and you do anything you can to make sure that your child is like fed and dressed and has a roof over their head. So like I would never hold that against Jessie or use that to invalidate her concerns or her trauma. So that's just my business. Reads messages, makes them sound like blackmail when they're really not. That's my opinion on that. She keeps on laughing, singing, etc., which is quite concerning. I don't know what it is. I don't know if she's doing it on purpose. Once again, like, she has mentioned on Patreon that she does this stuff to troll people because she thinks it's like funny when people are worried about her. I don't know, but she keeps on like laughing really loudly or just randomly bursting into song, which in my opinion is quite concerning. I don't know if that's just an act that she's putting on though. She shows more messages where she tells Jessie Smiles to take down videos, sign NDAs, but then refuses to do the same. Says that if Jessie signs NDAs, Gabbie doesn't have to because she has to mention Jessie Smiles in interviews. Not a good point to make. She mentions Patreon, how Jen is blackmailing her fans, that Jen Dent would go into these Patreons and blackmail fans, when in reality it's Gabbie Hanna's fans that keep on trying to ruin Jen Dent's life, aka accusing her of being a P-word, trying to get her fired from her nursing job, just like a bunch of things. And I just think it's really disgusting that she would even mention this situation when it does not look good for Gabbie at all. She mentions Lily and Megan, who are Jessie Smiles' friends, and how they apparently attack Gabbie Hanna, when in reality I think it's just that Jessie Smiles is going through a traumatic experience, so Megan and Lily are just there to, defend her and make sure that all the information is out there, which I think is actually just called being a good friend. Then she posts, Gabbie Hanna needs to be stopped, music heals, and got everybody talking, which are just 3 videos with clickbait titles where she just sings songs. I went through all of them and I was like, oh, nothing's happening. She's just singing. Then we have Alex James responding. So in one of her videos, Gabbie Hanna accuses Alex James of calling her fat, telling her she needs to get a nose job, telling her she needs liposuction, lying about his own nose job and his own plastic surgery. She then also accuses him of physically assaulting her, but just skims over that point and never shows any proof. Not that she has to have proof, but also she never mentions it again. She just goes, yeah, he physically assaulted me. Moving on. She just doesn't elaborate on it, which, yes, I'm always down to believe victims, but it just seemed like such an out of left field point to make, and it was just so offhand as well. It's such an offhand remark, which it could still be an offhand remark and still be correct. I'm not saying it's not correct, but it was just an offhand remark that she made. Alex James posts a part 1 and he's saying it's going to be probably a part 3 to part 4 series that he's making on Gabbie. Let me just see if he posted another part. No, part 1. So he just did part 1 of, but he didn't say of what. So it's just part 1 of, however many he decides to make. So in that, he says that he couldn't post anything but this. He had a different video planned, but he couldn't post anything but this because she mentioned him so aggressively in her video that he had to respond to this. That 90% of people that met Gabbie Hanna don't like her, which is very true. From what I've heard, people don't have great experiences with her, and I feel like that just makes her the common denominator in all of the drama that she's in. So it says that in the video that was oh, Alex James and Jessie Smiles lying. He's I got one date wrong, just one date, and that somehow invalidates my whole story. He's because I didn't fact check one date. He mentions the BuzzFeed article where she compares herself to Freddie Mercury, which is just the funniest comparison to make because it's just the farthest thing from the truth. He mentions how she trolls and makes fun of it on Patreon, aka her mental health, which is what I mentioned, where it's she does stuff that would make us very concerned for her mental health, but because she then goes on Patreon and says that she's trolling, it's when do we take her mental health struggles seriously, and when do we assume that she's doing it for attention? Because she literally went on Patreon and said, I can't believe people still believe me when I do all of this stuff. I do it all for attention. So when do we start feeling bad? When do we stop feeling bad? I don't know. Says that it's not funny. It's literally stigmatizing mental health. People are concerned for her. Her own fans are concerned for her. Other people are concerned for her. And she's just basically using this to shut people up and then to get more views. He also compares it to The Boy That Cried Wolf, where it's she could really be going through some mental health struggles in a week or in a month. But because she's now saying that it's trolling, no one's going to believe her in a month. And it could end in a tragedy. He mentions the fact that Gabbie Hanna claimed he physically assaulted her. But he's yeah, she provided no proof. And there is no proof because I didn't assault her physically. About the nose job and liposuction thing, she asked him for his details about his plastic surgery. So it's not he told her to get it. She was asking him for his nose job people and liposuction people, and that was something that she was interested in, not the other way around. They mentioned the ghost story again, how that was apparently a traumatic experience for her, when in reality what happened was they filmed a video where he allegedly pretended there was a ghost in their hotel room, which was a prank, but in reality that they laughed about that. They laughed together about that, and then she made it out to be this traumatic story, when in reality there was a thing that she did to him that was very similar, where she pretended to be his stalker that he's had for years, saying that he hacked into his iCloud and he's waiting outside, and Alex was calling the police and stuff, and then Gabbie essentially filmed it all and mocked him in front of their friends for that story. So he was like, this happened, I threatened to call her out on it, so she created this like ghost story that wasn't true and it wasn't how it happened, but she just did that so she'd have something to like battle me on, or like something that she could use against me. Gabbie Hanna mentioned that she was like suing a bunch of drama channels and a bunch of people, that she's like suing everyone, and I mentioned when I was reacting to that video that I never got a cease and desist or a lawsuit, and I would probably be the first on her list, like #1 priority to sue, because she hates me, allegedly. And he says that he hasn't received anything either, so this was just like another very provable lie from Gabbie Hanna. Mentions her stans and how she always has an issue with people harassing her or people's fans harassing her, when in reality her stans are the absolute worst. From mocking Dustin about deaths in his family and things that were going on at the time, to revenge to the Jen Dent situation. It's all just, you know, like, she can't say that people are mean to her when she's got like the worst of the worst stans. He has like a narcissist checklist, which is what people use to judge if someone is a narcissist, because she keeps on calling other people narcissistic manipulators while also probably being very much more a narcissistic manipulator than any of us. So he does like a checklist, aka like the Tanner stuff, like constantly being in competition with other people, to not telling her therapist the truth, which she has admitted in the past that she like goes to therapy but doesn't tell them the whole truth, so it doesn't really fix any problems, and just other things as well. You have to watch Alex James's video, I think it's done really well. Mentions the rice gum situation. She basically said that no one defended her when most people defended her from the rice gum situation, and he didn't, because he was like going through a lawsuit, an accident, he was like arrested on something, he was like going bankrupt, he had like a lot of things on his plate at the time, and they weren't friends on top of that. So he was like, at the time I was really going through a lot and we weren't even friends, so I just didn't defend her publicly. But it's like, you know, they weren't friends at the time. He also mentions how she's not well liked in the industry. Within like the first few months of her being in LA, she was kicked out of like 3 different people's houses. Like, she was like couch surfing, it's called, and she was kicked out from like 3 different places within literally 2 months. So, you know, watch his video, I think it's really good. It will be in description. And yes, that's so far what's happened. I tried to summarize it as quickly as possible. You know, to get like 2 hours of content down to, you know, 10 minutes is a challenge, but here we are. Okay, so once again, I filmed a video about Gabbie Hanna, and then more content about Gabbie Hanna comes out. I don't know why I forgot that the podcast comes out literally the same day that I filmed the video. Like, I don't know what was wrong with me. But anyway, the podcast came out, and it was really like a bunch of nothing. It was like the same stuff that she normally talks about, like who ruined her career and why her career is ruined, and just like a bunch of stuff, which we've all heard it before, and we've all heard the lies, the many lies. Like, once it's Trisha, and then it's us, and it's because she didn't want to do pop music and she did rock music instead. Like, it's just like a bunch of stuff, and the story changes every time. So like, this time she picked the story of T Channel's ruined her career, when it's like, okay, so is it going to be Trisha Paytas next again? Are we doing a rotation? I don't know. We then get obviously a bunch of complaints about T Channels, like always. She talks about her art, which, like, do that, talk about art. She talks about Jessie Smiles again, which I think is super unnecessary, uncomfortable, considering she's doing the podcast with Keemstar, who has mocked Jessie Smiles in the past. Maybe, I don't know if mocked is the right word. He essentially like said he didn't believe her at first, and then I think there were some tweets where he said, oh, I actually do believe her now. But it was like, it was just really weird. After like a while of Jessie feeling harassed by him, he then says, oh lol, now that he pled guilty, I guess I believe you. When you know how I feel about that one. So I just think, like, having a conversation about Jessie Smiles with someone who Jessie Smiles highly dislikes due to the situation, it just doesn't really help her case much. Not that her case is doing very well right now on the internet. But as you guys know, she has gone on a, you know, fit of calling commentary channels and T channels that are against her abusers, manipulators, narcissists. You guys get it, right? I don't think we're any of that. Personally, it's just my business, my business, my opinion. But then she's having a conversation with Keemstar and Banks, and obviously the topic of Rice Gum comes up, which is really awkward because FaZe, Keem, and Rice are close friends. The Rice Gum situation gets brought up, and they say to her, lol, this is just how he jokes around with people. Like, he just thinks it's really funny. And, like, let's think back to what the story that she told. She said he has physically assaulted her. He grabbed her phone out of her hand, cracked it, allegedly leaving bruises and marks on her from, like, the struggle, right?
He then also made a music video and a whole song mocking her weight, mocking her face, mocking her nose, things that she has said that I allegedly did by doing funny Photoshop edits on her. And they bring up Rice Gum and they say, haha, this is all like a big joke to him. He's not actually serious. And she goes, yeah, like it was never that deep. Like it was never deep to me. I just put it on the internet and I was more offended by people's reaction than like what he did. So I'm the abuser because I call out your behaviour. But the guy that grabbed the phone out of your hand and smashed it on the floor... Never mind, I'm never going to get into it. Anyway, I didn't think this warranted me doing another video. I just thought I'd add it into this video. So, no other video about Gabbie Hanna to look forward to. This is the one. Anyway.
But that is it for today's video. Remember to use code Angelika at checkout when you use adamandeve.com for 50% off one item of free shipping to the US and Canada. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.